Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to another exciting episode of Facility Talk with the Froelich Brothers. Today we have a very special guest all the way from Wisconsin. It's Jonathan Moyer. He is one of the founders and CEO of Harbor Bay Assisted Living. And Jonathan joins us, taking time out of his very busy schedule. So, Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us and coming on our podcast and talking about the world of facilities. How are you today, Jonathan?
Great. Thanks for having me, Tommy.
Absolutely. It's our privilege. And to all of our viewers out there, we're growing this very organically. So it's beautiful to have people that are, boots on the ground, owners, facilities directors, all these things that make these types of businesses operate fluidly. And that's what it's all about. We're trying to spread the word, grow a community, give people the sense of that community that we're in this together. It's not easy. There's a lot of things that are thrown at us on a daily basis. And hearing it directly from people like yourselves, Jonathan, it makes a world of difference for all the facilities world out there. So, Jonathan, let's dig right into it. So, Jonathan, I've seen some good information on your company. It's very impressive. Assisted living, family owned and operated. That's something that struck a chord with us because we do the same thing.
Sure.
The difference you're making in the memory care world is fantastic. It's so vital and important. So if you could, Jonathan, tell me just a little bit about the background of your company and your family.
Sure. Well, uh, I'll try not to go on and on because this is my 34th year of owning and operating assisted living for seniors with a heavy emphasis on memory care. So, my mother started a company in '89. I joined her in '91, and uh, I started on the real estate side. I was in real estate investments, and so I got involved to help her raise capital as well as get the buildings, go out and find sites, get the sites approved, get the buildings built. And then I got more and more involved on the operations because we had a lot of buildings and we needed more help on the marketing and sales because you got a lot of buildings, you need to fill them up, let people know. It was a brand new concept in the early 90s,
Okay.
assisted living and especially standalone assisted living for memory care. Very few people were doing that, and assisted living was still just becoming a new a new industry. So we grew that company and merged into a national company in the 90s, late 90s, 97. Um, then decided we were happier and actually more effective being a closely held family company focused in the Midwest rather than flying to Florida for 2 or 3 days a week and then Arizona and then Portland, Oregon, where that company was based. And so we were just all over the place and really our quality of life and I had a couple young kids that I was raising at the time, and just needed to back to back to our roots of owning and operating here in the Midwest, Wisconsin, Illinois, and Minnesota. Really, has been our focus.
It's fantastic. That's very impressive, Jonathan. And you said you had young boys at the time. Are they in the business now? Are they grown up and telling you what to do?
Uh, Not quite. I was give them a shot at that. So about 2 years ago, they each tried different parts of the industry, got a feel for, what the future might look like for them, if they wanted to continue to pursue that as a career. And they both separately decided that family business isn't what they wanted to do. So
Sure.
um, a lot of people tell me that over the years, so surprised they could never work with their mother, they could never work with their brother, their family. And we think it's the best of all worlds, but we've been doing it a long time, and we've figured out how to enjoy working together and the benefits of the trust and being able to finish each other's sentences after working together this long together. So
Impressive, Jonathan. That's very impressive. And you'll have to help me out and share some of those secrets on how you do that.
sounds like you guys are getting there and probably pretty far along
Yeah.
already.
Oh, we have a great time. It is the world of difference for us as well, man. I get to hug my mom at work and see my dad and get the advice from my father who's been doing this his entire life, it seems like. And
That's
you know,
great.
what they say is you can't teach experience, but when you hang out enough with everyone around you that has that experience, it rubs off on you. So we're blessed.
Osmosis. Yeah,
Yep, osmosis is real.
absolutely. Yeah, especially if
That's
people really
great.
want to do it and enjoy it.
Hmm.
You get focused on the things that even even though we're family, we both have a very different, focus on our business, and our strengths are very different, so that very complementary of each other.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned that. So that complementary aspect of your family and the way that you guys go about operating this company, how does it impact your facilities? Are you guys complementary in the sense of divide and conquer? Or are you working kind of in the same, towards the same goals in the same realms? How does that look for you guys?
Sure. So we definitely have the same goals, resident and family, experience, and that standard of excellence, so that they feel like they have the absolute best care for themselves and or their loved ones. And how we go about it is from two different angles. So Dolores, as I call her, my mother, she came to it from a nursing side. So she got her RN in the 70s. She got her master's in nursing in the 80s, then got her MBA in the 90s. So even though she does have an MBA, she comes to it from a nursing standpoint. I come to it from more of a business standpoint. I went into business right out of my undergraduate, and then did an evening management at Kellogg School of Business in Chicago. So I came to it from and they do call it a MMA, Masters in Management Administration, rather than an MBA at Kellogg, because it really is focused on the concept that great management is what makes a great business. You can be great at finance and moving numbers around and financial management, but it really comes down to the core of each operation, each business, and each subcomponent of business. And that's our belief, is great management. And great management starts with recruiting and hiring the best people, whether it be in my position, hiring great managers, not trying to take somebody who hasn't done it or doesn't have great background and try to turn them into great managers. So they don't have to necessarily come from our industry, but they need to have a proven track record. They know they are great managers, and and then those people, teaching them how to hire great caregivers, is really the people that do the real work. Um, and our certainly our dietary assistants, our housekeeping, our maintenance management group. They're very important, but it really comes down for our residents and their families. They really care about the caregivers, and recruiting, hiring, and then treating those caregivers better than they're going to get treated anywhere else is our core philosophy. And then around that, of course, we have to have great nursing, great healthcare provisions, and that's Dolores's focuses on that nursing side of things. And then I do oversee the financial management, but that's an aside. That's my second or third job. My first is all about making sure we have great managers. They're providing great management, and we have great caregivers, and they're supporting those caregivers, because those are, we look at everything as, I'm here supporting the managers. The managers there to support the caregivers, because they're the ones doing the real work. That's what really matters in the lives of our residents and families. So that's our upside down organizational structure, is the caregivers are at the top. We're at the bottom to support them, and we call ourselves coaches. A lot of people do that in management now, but my dad was my high school basketball coach, so I grew up around coaches, and I truly know what coaching is. It isn't just a business term that sounds better than a manager or a supervisor or something else. We really see our people as, they're great players to begin with, um, and just coaching them to do continuous and never ending improvement is also another one of our pieces of our puzzle. So I don't know if that answers your question, but
Jonathan, that answers my question. And then a couple other I had lined up. I was going to ask you about your strategic design. You just did a great job of expressing how important it is to support your team. And the upside down approach is very unique. It's very interesting. I like that a lot. And I think that's something maybe you can dig in to a little bit more for us, maybe more specifically to the facilities. How do you support in the same, method and the same means with your facility staff?
Sure. So it's a combination of things. So as I talked about in the 90s, when there were no facilities out there and it was a new burgeoning industry, we were building from ground zero. Um, so now moving on to this third phase, this is our third company, and even our second company, we went into a mode of acquisition and turnaround, value add. So our approach in supporting the facilities is, we're the new owner, we're the new owner, operator, management, however they look at it. But we're there to support them totally, and so that's how we come in. And it's really important that first, you know, 3, 6 months is that they understand we're literally here to be better support than they've ever had in the past. Because when they're underperforming, they're afraid they're going to lose their job every level. That's the number one worry. They knew they weren't doing well. Oh my gosh, now we got new owners, new management. We have to, are they here to replace us? That's what they always think. And our goal is to, you know, get to know people and see if they want to be there, and how can we coach them to do better, because 80% of the time they actually are really good people. They've had good experience in the past. There's just a few things that need to be tweaked. And so again, that first 3 to 6 months is just to understand what's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is our colloquial around that. So just, let us get to know you. Let us get to know how we can help you better and support you in everything that you do. And of course, bringing 33 years of experience, we've learned, tricks. Any problem that they have, we've learned it and hopefully learned how to solve it. And often the hard way, often we created the problem because we were doing something wrong. And unfortunately, maybe 20, 25% of the time, the only answer is to find a new manager. But that's the number one support we can give for the residents and their families, is make sure that we really do have an excellent manager in place. But 80% of the time, on average, it's worked out that even in acquisitions, we end up working with the current management and make them more successful, give them better strategies. To hire is a big thing. That's important, but also marketing and sales, which is another part of what I focus on for our company. And some of that marketing is better digital marketing in these days, and some of it is just better, sales process. Once they get to meet a family or a resident, how to treat them better and how to make them understand why we're different in a better way. What makes us better and different than the competition, so to speak, because they have a lot of options out there now. This isn't like the 90s when, we were new, but we were the only option that was really reasonable and done at the level that our standards of excellence have been all these years. So
Absolutely. And Jonathan, you're right. I mean, competition is greater than ever. In your field especially, you see it. Just you don't have to be involved in it to feel it. There's a lot of marketing surrounded by it. You drive around your cities, you see a lot of assisted living. So competition can be a positive thing, right? And I grew up with sports as well, and we used to say competition breeds success.
right,
Don't look at your teammate as a threat. Look at your teammate as an opportunity to be better,
right.
right? So is that something that you like to, embrace and try to, use as motivation?
Yeah. Well, I look at it as our competition is a really good training ground, because 95% of the people we hire have done well at other for other providers, and are looking for a better place and want to get treated better. Is usually the number one reason they're leaving. So our one of the things we promise and deliver to our families and our residents, but it also is important to our caregivers, is that we have high staffing of excellent caregivers. So they know they're not going to be working short because that's the high staffing. So we have very, very little, almost zero agency. So 6 of our 7 locations actually are using zero agency at this point. Um, and so people know they're going to be surrounded by great caregivers themselves if they come work with us. That's part of our recruiting. That's part of our retention program because it only takes one person that's not doing their job for other people to feel like, oh, geez, they're getting away with this. I'm doing all the work. And that's true whenever you have agency. They don't know the residents. They don't know what to do. A lot of the time, I don't know if it's 60 or 80% of the time, they're spending their time on their phone, not actually doing the work. Our residents suffer whenever we have to deal with that situation, and obviously the families don't like it either. And the fellow caregivers, they just got to do more work, and there's agency in there not doing the work. So again, competition, whether it be when I'm looking for good managers, they often come from the competition. They've been successful and they've heard of us and they know our reputation for treating people better than they're going to get treated anywhere else. And then same thing with caregivers. Once we get one caregiver from a competitor, often there's 3, 4, 5 more. Often there's 10 that want to come, but we have our sorting process. We only really want 3 or 4 of those, and once we have a good caregiver, we say, if this person comes from there, it's on you because you already know how good they are, and make sure we only let us know that this is somebody you really want to work with, or else let us know if you don't, and we won't infect our wonderful culture with anybody that doesn't fit.
That's very impressive. 7 locations, being in the industry for 35 years, creating a culture that you've maintained and sustained over that time period. What do you think has been one of the main ingredients to accomplishing that?
Um, I mean, I think it's totally it starts with our commitment towards excellent care for our residents and their families. And we understand, especially in memory care, that you're not just taking care of the resident, you're taking care of the families. And we're able to, with our high staffing of excellent caregivers, we're able to provide care for residents that often other competitors in the marketplace either cannot provide that level of care or choose not to. Um, One of the things in memory care is, as I'm sure you know, is behaviors, dealing with difficult behaviors, and we've just found that when you do have the right amount of staffing and the right training and the right support for our caregivers, that the residents actually do so much better when they've done poorly somewhere else. And we try to convince people that at the front end, but sometimes for a few dollars less, people will try it somewhere else and they'll circle back and they'll see that it really does make a difference. Um, you really do have higher staffing, you really do have excellent caregivers, and that's where the core starts from. And once we have that, we know that we can build a financial model that's successful and that continues our investors that work with us. I think now we've worked with 37 individuals, and 35 of those have done multiple investments with us. We mostly have worked with individual real estate investors, and they're grouped together for each location. Anywhere from 3 to 7 partners is a typical for our medium size, and that's one of the things we know geographically too. Another part of our success is geographically. We know Wisconsin, Minnesota, and Illinois really well. We're not trying to jump into Florida just because everybody's selling in Florida because the insurance rates are so high, or um, people are getting sued. There's all kinds of challenges going on between hurricanes and lawsuits that insurance rates have really skyrocketed. Opportunities are there, but then when you underwrite them based on the cost, there's lots of seniors, but we just stick to our roots, and there's plenty of opportunities, and not to grow too fast. A lot of people that have been doing it as long as we have 25 or 50 or 250. Some of the organizations that were started in the 90s, now have examples of of properties that they are overseeing. And, needless to say, anywhere from 20% to 50% of those properties aren't doing very well. So to us, there'll be an unlimited number of opportunities of properties that aren't doing well, and that when we're ready to grow, um, right now we're looking at, so we have 7 locations. We're looking at 10 new locations. We won't do all those, but we're looking at which ones make the most sense for our investors, for us to operate and turn those around, because it just shows how many underperforming properties are out there that are just waiting for great management to come along and make them successful.
That's fantastic. And it sounds like controlling that quality, that service that you provide. And,
Absolutely.
number one thing that you focus on is the safety, health, and well-being of your residents. So if you can't control that while you grow, why grow? Is that kind of the way basically what you
Right.
just described?
Right. Otherwise, we'll be in the same boat with, the majority of uh, multi-facility operators. They've got their 1 or 2 or 20% that aren't performing at that level. If you don't expand beyond your capability to, and now our 7 locations are, I guess one of them is the newest that we just acquired this year. 6 of those are already operating, I say on their own, but we still touch base early and often, our monthly rhythm as well as our weekly touch points to make sure they know they still have the support if they need it. But most of them don't need it, and we don't want to get in their way of doing what they do every day just to have a meeting with us. So we adjust as needed for each location. We don't. There's no cookie cutter approach to things. People say, what is your staffing model? What is your ratio? Well, it depends on the level of care that's needed at each location, what the managers and the nursing team thinks what level of care that we need, and um, we put the staffing levels appropriately, and we let our families know and our residents know that we have to charge based on the level of care that we're providing for you individually, but you're not going to pay for something you don't need. It's not a tiered system. We use a point system. So every person has an individual score and an individual rate. For accountants, it's easier just to have 3 or 4 tiers. You fit into this box or the other box. But we said, no, it's individual care. Here's your care plan. Here's the care we're providing. Here's how we have to charge for that, because that affects how many caregivers we can have providing that level of care from the bottom up program, or I guess really it's from the top down, the residents at the very top and then our caregivers.
So it
So
sounds like that's unique. The fact that you work from a point system
yep,
and you're not, trying to meet the needs of your accounting staff. You're trying to meet the needs of your residents
right,
and your caregivers.
right, exactly.
That
Yep.
sounds like it's a unique thing in your industry.
It is. It's rare. Yeah, we figured when we came up with this system in the late 90s, we thought everybody'd be doing it by now. We cannot believe that it's still predominantly tiers. You still go to the conferences and hear, oh yeah, problem is our nurses and our managers all want to give people right up to that tier, and they never want to go to that next tier. They justify it, and if it's just a point system, then it just flows as people age in place and they need more care. That way, 95% of our residents move in with us. It's actually, I think last year it was 97.3 of our residents that spent their final days with us that had originally moved in with us. We rarely, and there are just certain situations where people become medically unstable, and that's when they need 24/7 nursing supervision. They're a skilled nursing facility. I mean, we don't count when people go to the hospital, that's not a long-term stay, but sometimes people go to the hospital and they can't come back to us. And that's at 2.5, 3%. We're always been over 95% since early 90s.
Congratulations,
Yeah.
Jonathan. I mean, it's such a blessing what you're doing for these families.
Yeah.
So many of us are impacted in this world by, memory loss, and what comes with that. And then just aging, the fact that once you reach a certain age, you need to be able to trust the assisted living company that you're working with,
Right.
because at the end of the day, it's something that you leave as a family member, and they're there, and that trust needs to be established. So, how do you go about kind of creating that trust on the front end with a family, not the resident themselves, but the family?
Um, what I really coach our whether it be a marketing people and some of our managers do some of the marketing. It's definitely we teach it across the board, whether it be our nursing team um, from the get go is letting people know we're here as an option, but we've been around for 33 years. So if we'll help you find if either a lot of times we don't have an opening, so we'll help them through recommendation and knowledge and relationships of people of where they could um, where they can find the best care. And if they need us in the long run, sometimes even the people we make referrals to can only do so much, and they know that when they can't provide that level of care, if we have an opening, we definitely can do that. And so we often have a referral system where people will go on our waiting list, but then they'll need care before we have an opening. And so we start with that approach is, you can choose us. Here are the other options. Here's what makes us different, what makes us better. Um, and like I said, a lot of times because we're so open about it, people will choose a lower priced option, and then they end up needing our level of care. We really try to let them know at the beginning, we'll do our best to get as close as we can to the competitors' pricing. But as you need more care, we definitely you'll understand that you get to stay with us. But we're gonna add more staffing, and so we're gonna need to charge a little bit more for that. So that's from the get go, letting people understand our whole model and our standards of excellence. That's what we talk about from the beginning. And of course, I'm looking at it from philosophy, but when it comes really down to it, it's getting to know that resident, what their needs are, and showing that you get to know them faster than the competition. Most people do have, um, I'd say strictly or focused marketing people. We have fewer of those. We tend to have more management and allow managers because they know um, the whole part of our operation at each location. They know everything that goes on there as managers, where marketing people might not know the industry as well, and they might not understand our point system and explaining that. And so that's why it's challenging for me to want to hire a marketing focused person unless they really have been there, done that, and they understand the industry really well.
Yeah. Yeah,
Because
because
that first,
transparency, it's something that you need to provide, and that's what you do provide. And having the people that are involved on the day to day, it's much more natural to be transparent because you see it. You're
right?
involved. You're truly hands-on, and the experience is something that you're a part of. So that's extremely smart of you guys, Jonathan. And it sounds like it's been a tremendous part of your growth.
Yeah, definitely a part of our success, as we do grow. And yeah, so we've been lucky. I mean, ever since we wanted to grow, there's been more opportunities than there is, our ability to meet everybody's needs, so to speak.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I've kind of been bouncing around a little bit just because it's something that's always stuck with me throughout my career is, being in sales, it provides the opportunity to have an impact on people's lives. You actually come in and you listen, and you're listening to needs. When you meet people's needs, it has an impact on how they feel. So it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you say you can do. It's all about how you make people feel,
Right.
and continuing to make them feel that level of trust and that you committed to that, to meeting those needs. It's just going to turn into a great relationship, right?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic. Jonathan, let me ask you, 25's halfway done already. Can you believe that?
That's
We're
crazy.
already mid-July. It's incredible. So I always like to ask about goals. Goals in facilities is huge. It's what drives our years. So 25 and then into 26. What are your major goals? You mentioned 10 locations you're considering. Is that probably something that you're focused on the most as far as your goals go?
Well, I break it down because my goals are also at each individual location. So because our philosophy is constant, never-ending improvement, even if something is operating, effectively full with a waiting list and, looks great on paper, there's improvements that we constantly can be making, in healthcare in general, but assisted living, things are never perfect. There's always a room for improvement, whether it be, we're always focused on where's our uh, employee satisfaction, because then that drives resident satisfaction, family satisfaction. So we always have goals in those areas of improving those at each location. They always have uh, other performance metrics, some financial, some quality metrics that we do to make sure we're providing that standard of excellence in care. Each location right now and always will be 80% of our focus will be on our existing continuing locations, and 20% will be on, even though I'm looking at 10 locations, you know, two or three would be more than enough. It just so happens we came across more than we typically are even looking at in the past. We're usually looking at maybe two or three and add one. Like I said, in this case, there just happens to be quite a few on the marketplace that just haven't come back from COVID. Um, Regulatory issues, things like that is where we really shine. We can come in and make a difference in the lives of the current residents, but help a lot more residents that would would choose this location if there were great management in place. And so that's our approach. So we're sorting through, like I said, those 10 to say which are the ones that are ideal for us, which are the ones our investors are excited about, and make sure that we don't bite off more than we can chew. Because of our strategy of acquisition and turnaround, I call our goals very opportunistic. So our goal might be to do one acquisition this year, and our goal might be to do five acquisitions this year, depending on how many come along that are reasonable, geography combined with, um, type of care, that level of care that we focus on and we can do better than others, as well as, other things, competition, market demographics, all those moving pieces that we're sorting through on these 10 potential acquisitions. But in reality, it'll probably be one to three that will end up closing on in the next 12 months.
That's great. Fantastic goals. And, getting to where you're at, the style of leadership, it's admirable, everything. So having you on our podcast has been, very awesome, man. We really appreciate it, Jonathan. And I'd like to close with maybe a highlight you'd like to point out from, the recent, at least this year that kind of stands out in the top of your mind. Some big success or maybe a team member that you'd like to plug that created some new value or something along those lines.
Oh, I mean, I always, and she's had a great year. So, Jody Navis is our chief operating officer. She has been with us now, celebrated her seventh anniversary in January. And she, as I said, Dolores, my mother and business partner, she's going to turn 79 in August. So she's winding down a little bit, but Jody has stepped in amazingly, this year, every year, more than ever. Uh, Really, she's never going to fill those shoes totally, but sharing what Dolores has shared with her, she's sharing it with all of our locations and really making sure that our standard of excellence is not slipping just because Dolores, instead of working 60 or 70 hours a week, is down to, 30 or 35 hours a week. So,
That's
yeah,
good.
I'd say, without her, I couldn't continue to grow and expand what I do, because I need that strong clinical support that Dolores has provided for her. It's 36 years. For me, my 34th year, and now Jody for 7 years has really stepped in and learned with Dolores as a mentor, and been she's just an amazing um, junior partner that Dolores and I have to continue the legacy that Dolores created.
That's fantastic. Congratulations for having such a, great, new partner. And
Yeah,
for Dolores, your mother, to create, the legacy and
I could
building
name
on that
another 10
legacy.
people, but Jody definitely shines
That's
right there
amazing.
with into
Well,
what we
that's
just talked
awesome.
about.
Congratulations to Jody. That's
Yeah, she's
fantastic.
awesome.
The growth, the opportunity, the future, it's very bright. So thank you for sharing everything, Jonathan. This has been a real joy. Another great episode of Facilities Talk with the Froelich Brothers. Jonathan Moyer, thank you again. Bay
Thank you,
Harbor
Tommy.
Assisted Living and Memory Care, fantastic company and organization you've created. So thank you for all that. Thank you. And on behalf of all the families out there that you're creating better lives for. Thank you,
Thank you,
Jonathan.
Tommy. Thank you. Great
It's
to
our
meet you and
pleasure.
get to know you a little bit.
You
Thanks,
too,
Tommy.
Jonathan. My pleasure. My pleasure, sir.